evening prayer doesn't always have a homily attached to it. But I thought you ought to get all your bang for your buck tonight, since you made the journey out to hear the choir and to join us in prayer on this feast of the Annunciation. And I thought that I would begin it by simply asking you to think about moments in your life when you've been asked a tough question. You get asked a tough question, you have two choices. Well, maybe there's a third one where you can say, let me think about it, I'll get back with you. And then you get away for a little bit longer. But generally, when you get asked a question to do something, you have the choice of saying yes or no. A lot of times today, when I, as a priest, ask somebody if they'd like to get involved in something, they usually go the third route, which is, let me think about it, Father, and I'll get back with you. And then often they come back and they say the things that I myself say all the time. Well, I'd really like to do that, but I'm super busy. I have a whole lot going on. And every now and then that would turn into a, you know what, I've got so much going on, I can't do it right now. And generally, those are the right things to say. I can think of a whole lot of times I've been asked to do something, possibly by dioceses and bishops. If a bishop asks you, you don't have much of a choice to say no, but you can keep saying, let me think about it, Bishop, until they finally give up on you. But generally, when I've had to say no to something, it's been the right thing to say no to. But it's the yeses that sometimes, even when you say, let me think about it, you come back around to, okay, I really have thought about this, I've prayed about it, and yes, I would do it. And generally, when you come to those yeses, sometimes you have to admit you probably should have said no. But every once in a while, you say yes to something that transforms your life and changes you into something you weren't expecting to be. Most of us probably can remember both the right yeses and the wrong yeses we've said. The good news is if you can remember the wrong yeses, you're probably out of it by now. So good for you. You can look back on it and you've learned. But the right yeses that you said are those things that changed who you are. Whether or not it had to do with a choice to get involved in something, maybe something started as a hobby, somebody invited you to try something out and it became that one thing that you now do all the time. It's become a life changer. Of course, we all have the stories of the person who asked us out or who we got brave enough to ask out and they said yes. Generally, those are yeses we're proud of. Occasionally, we have to readjust those yeses as time goes on, but no matter how that feels, those yeses had some moment to transform us and change us. And then there are the yeses that we get involved in with God, where we have to have a real private talk with God, and we finally say, okay, yes, I would do it, God. And that, no matter whether you like it or not, changes your life. Well, all this discussions about yes and no is very important on the day when we remember the Feast of the Annunciation. Generally, this would have been celebrated on the 25th of March. The 25th of March is exactly 9 months from the 25th of December. Therefore, the Annunciation is exactly 9 months before the birth of Jesus. It all fits biologically, scientifically, and theologically to pick that day. Ever so often, the 25th falls during Holy Week, as it did this year, and it gets transferred. So now it's on April the 8th. But in a lot of ways, I think that's a wonderful time to be because it places the story of the Annunciation, something that fits more with Christmas, right in the beginning, kickoff of the great 50 days of Easter. And I think it's a wonderful message for us because it sort of brings into focus what one of the greatest yeses in all of history has brought about. And that is the moment in which the Blessed Virgin Mary says yes to the angel Gabriel and begins a movement that will carry through everything we've talked about over the last 3 weeks and end up on what we celebrated back a couple of Sundays ago in Easter, the great moment of Jesus' resurrection. And I always think, I love listening to the reading. I love when the angel Gabriel appears and calls Mary, "Hail, O favored one of God," and then the reading says, and Mary was very perplexed by what the angel said. I can only imagine perplexed probably doesn't get the whole gist of it all. And what comes after that is the angel Gabriel laying out this amazing timeline before this young peasant girl, in which he's basically telling her, you're going to be bringing about the follower of King David. How could she have ever had any idea what in the world he was talking about? And then it involves her becoming pregnant with the child, which, again, we don't talk about this all that much, but to have been caught with pregnancy outside of marriage at the time when Mary would have faced this possibility could have brought about stoning, death, being exorcised from your community. Mary had a lot to think about. And I suppose that's what makes her yes so amazing, is because I think she's able, one of those amazing people, to weigh everything as it comes to be. I suppose if an angel came and knocked on my door, perhaps I would take it a little more seriously than even if the bishop put in a phone call and told me these things. Because an angel is a messenger of God. So therefore, if an angel tells you something, I suppose Mary's response to that made sense. Rather than telling Gabriel to give her a few days to think about it, she says, "Behold, the handmaid of the Lord, be it unto me according to thy will." That's the great yes that Mary says. And the other part that I just want to throw out there is, as much as the angel tells her the good side of the story, you're going to be bringing forth this great Messiah, the one that Israel has been waiting for, who's going to follow in the footsteps of David. As much as that sounds like a wonderful thing to say yes to, the pain that Mary had to endure through all of that makes the idea of her yes even more powerful. I don't know if she could even fathom what she was saying yes to. And I can't imagine how many times she thought to herself the way maybe you and I have thought when we've agreed to do something and found out it was going to be a whole lot more difficult than we expected. How many times she might have thought, why did I say yes to this in the first place? But that's the amazing inspiration of Jesus' mother, is that as hard as it was, she never gave up on her faith. She never let go of trusting God. She never let go of that proclamation she made. "Behold, the handmaid of the Lord. Behold, I am the Lord's servant. Let this be as you say it will be." How many times did she have to repeat that as she watched her son grow old, as she began to see the crowd of leaders ganging up on him, ready to arrest him? What must it have been like to watch her son walk that road to the cross? How many times did she have to say to herself, "I am your servant. Let it be unto me the way you say it's going to be"? And what a joy it must have been to be in that crowd of the apostles and to see what we're celebrating right now, which is Jesus bringing into her mind and her thoughts something she must have never imagined before. The angel Gabriel doesn't say anything about resurrection. The angel Gabriel doesn't say he's going to die a really terrible death, but don't worry about it. He's going to walk out of the grave 3 days later. She had to walk through that on her own. And her yes had to carry her through that. And the only way any yes we ever say carries us through that is if we have faith to believe that God is with us. Mary is a perfect example for all of us to hold on to show us what trusting God is all about and how painful that can be, but also how important it is to never let go. She is the mother of the church, and the church has been through every bump, every terrible moment that a church can face, from the beginning of time through COVID 2 or 3 years ago when we weren't allowed to open our doors on Easter Sunday. And yet the church holds on to its faith because it has a mother that it can look to that helps connect it always to Jesus. That's the thing about Mary. She's always pointing to her son. Never does she once not say, if he tells you to do this, you should follow. Trust him. She is the image of the church, and that sign of inspiration, that yes, that faith that she holds on to is why we continue to call her blessed and to remember these moments in which her yes helped to transform the whole world and give us the opportunity to say yes to God more and more and more in our lives. So, an important day to remember today, and I'm happy we're all here to pray together and